What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 673 of The O Show. We are presented by TickPick.com. Use that promo code capital OSHOW20 for $20 off your next order. We got Game 6 between the Suns and the Nuggets tonight. I'm optimistic. Do you watch, or have you been watching the series?
Yeah, I've been following.
I think it's over. I think they'll win tonight. I think it all came down to home court advantage in this entire series. I think every team's won all of their home games.
I think there's a lot of factors at play with the Suns and the Nuggets. You know, obviously I live in Phoenix, and so I've adopted the Suns as kind of the team. I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm always going to wear the Warriors hat. But there's a lot of factors with the Suns, I think, that have kind of been mismanaged in some ways here with some of the personnel and trades. But I wish them the best of luck, and they're a great team. I hope that they can come to pull through, but I kind of agree with you. I think the Nuggets kind of got this one.
Were you a fan of the KD trade? Because there's a lot of people that are like, all right, we needed to win now. We needed to make a big splash now. But at the same time, he gave up a lot of great young talent.
I don't like that, and a first-round draft pick. So I don't think that look, I get it, right? When you have someone who's as talented as KD, but KD's a great player. He's one of the best that's ever done it, but he's not a LeBron. Right, he's not someone who's going to go in his mid-30s and still dominate the league. And even though he's doing a great job, I don't think he's what they needed to build that franchise, especially for years to come, giving away draft picks and a lot of young talent and guys like Cam Johnson who are coming in at 6 and just popping. So I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily the best thing, but hey, I'm not the GM, I'm not the head coach. I just like to watch the sport. I love basketball. I think it's one of the best. I grew up playing it, so. I get it. It's one of the best sports there is. The athleticism is just outstanding these days, watching these guys fly around. So basketball is a great sport. Love watching it. And I hope the Suns can pull it through. I don't know. You never really know, right? No. But it's fun to watch for sure.
Game 6 of any playoff series is exciting. And you can get $20 off tonight's game at Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona, downtown, by using that promo code capital OSHOW20 for $20 off. We got Dan from Alpha Army in the studio today. You're a very busy man with a lot of important things to do, so I appreciate you wasting an hour of your time talking to me today. But we were talking about a little bit before we came on.
It's never a waste of time.
I hope it isn't. Some people think it is. So you never really know. But I appreciate you coming in today. I'm glad we were able to connect. We were talking about literally people wasting their time, whether they're in their mid-20s like myself, whether they're in their 30s, their 40s. Some people just aren't go-getters, I guess you can say. There's a lot of people that, like you said, they don't want to work hard in order to provide just an unbelievable living for themselves. So they just decide to live the comfortable 9-to-5 life and be told how much they're worth.
I think it's the same stuff that everyone's talking about and dealing with. We're on social media. Social media is instant gratification. You see somebody, you're scrolling through Instagram, you see someone on vacation in Italy and you think that's all they're doing all day. That's not, right? Mm-hmm. But in our minds, right, if you see, well, how do they get to go on all these vacations? Yeah. You don't know that they're broke and they've sold their car to go on a vacation in Italy. You don't know their situation, but it's perceived that way. So this instant gratification of swipe right, swipe left, that is the same thing people are translating into their real life. They think like the real world works that way. It doesn't. You have to have hard work and time and dedication and consistency. And when you don't want to do something is when you do it. When it's hard is when you go harder, right? That's those things people want to avoid because they just want that instant gratification. That goes right along with social media.
Do you think you're born with that type of
Absolutely
instinct?
Not.
You think it just comes from like having that stinging feeling and thinking like, oh, I can do way better for myself and I'm going to prove it to all these people that think that I can't?
I think there's a combination. I think depending on, where you come from. So like I've noticed that people that grew up with a lot of excess tend to not have the same drive as people who come from without, right? But then again, there's a lot of people that come from lower income families that don't believe, weren't exposed to, which I think is probably one of the biggest ones, but just aren't around people that have achieved, and so they don't think it's even possible. You have very few people. I grew up in Vallejo, California. If you know anything about that area, it's not the prettiest. It's a ghetto for all intents and purposes, and there was a lot of gangs and things like that where I grew up. And so you just you always keep your head on a swivel. You never know when you leave school what can happen. There's all kinds of things that kind of make you aware and a little more street smart maybe than the average. And then I would go down to San Diego, where my uncle lives in that Del Mar area, beautiful area. And, his kids are, they had a very different upbringing. And I'm like, this is crazy. Why am I over here in Vallejo and they're over here in San Diego living it up? At least that's what the perception was. And it's about choices. It's about choices that people make, right? Like my mom and my uncle grew up in the same house, right? But their lives turned out very different. Mm-hmm. And that's based on choices that they make. And people always want to blame society for why they're where they're at. It's choices. Just like I made choices. I could have easily, when I was in high school or even in college when I was playing football and stuff, like I could have easily gone down the same path as all the people where I grew up with and been in the same place 10 years, 20 years later that I was when I left high school. So it's all about the choices that you make and making that final decision. I lean on Ed Milet a lot for his content. And, one of the things that he said recently, I was at one of the conferences out here and he said some cool stuff. And he's like, look, the reality is like, there has to be that one person in your family that makes a decision to change the trajectory of your family for generations to come. Mm-hmm. Who that's going to be, he says, I chose me, right, to be that person. And that's the driving force. And for me and my family, that's me too. I'm going to be the one that changes this perpetual lifestyle of not having enough. I'm not going to do it. And I'm gonna every day I wake up, that's on my mind. Every day all throughout the day. That's why there's very few breaks. My lunchtime is all right. Let's get this thing done and I'm eating while I'm doing. That's right. Like that's how it is, right? Like if you really want to get out of the financial situation, and that's what we're talking about specifically. If you want to get out of that financial situation, then you're gonna have to do the things other people are not willing to do. Mm-hmm. Like when you go home, are you shut off? Like when you go home, are you still thinking about tomorrow and the next day of what you have to do and the things and all the tasks that are associated? But there's a double-edged sword there.
Oh, for sure.
Are you married?
I'm not.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. One day, right? And then you're married and then you have kids. Is it fair to them? So that's the other side, right? Like guys like me, I'm like, oh, I can't stop. That's a bad thing in some situations because your wife and your kids, they don't care about the business side. That's right. They don't give a damn. They want you at home. They want you to be present. They want you all those things. What I was talking with him earlier. They want you there. How is it fair to them that all you think about is work? So there's a double-edged sword there, right? And that's just the way that the world is set up. And so you have to have a way to, I don't want to say balance because I remember Ryan Stillman saying, fuck balance.
There's no such thing.
He says, what is balance? Balance is when a scale says zero, fuck zero, right? So I get that. It's not about necessarily balance. It's about prioritization, right? Taking your time and maximizing it. So just like how you maximize your schedule throughout the day for business, you do that for your family too. And you make sure that you budget time specifically for them, where you shut the phone off, where you spend that time. And because the last thing you want, and the same thing for me, I have two little kids, and I don't want to wake up one day and they're older now, and I'm like, damn, I missed all that. Mm-hmm. Like, fuck that. I'll give up all the money to not have that happen. Yeah. Right. So, there is a level of prioritization that needs to happen for both sides.
Are you married? I am. So is your wife? Because I feel like opposites attract, but is your wife similar to your mindset? Complete opposite?
100%, 180. The complete, if I was running this way, she'd be running that way. Okay. Now she runs with me because she, of course, she's my wife, but she grew up very different. She grew up in a more privileged environment in Panama and Southern California, in a big high-rise, beautiful skyscrapers all around. So she grew up in a very different lifestyle where money was not viewed the same way. Yeah. Right? Everyone had it. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't like where I grew up where no one had it, right? Just $20 to go to the movies was like, damn, man. Mm-hmm. How are we we can't, sometimes we'd have to not do it, right? And that's the unfortunate reality of people that don't have financial literacy and they never create that is they don't have the choices and options in life to do things you want to do. Mm-hmm. And
like you look at that example right there, just $20, right? You're probably thinking to yourself like, man, it's just $20 and I can't even do this. Like you have that stinging feeling in the back of your head where like some people just grew up like, oh yeah, $20, no worries. Some people are like, oh, $200, yeah, no worries. Some people are like $2,000, yeah, no worries, you know. And it's like you think like I really had to like learn and adapt and learn all of these skills to make that sort of money in a month, a day, a week. You know, like it's skills that some people might never learn because they grew up comfortable. They never really learned how to be uncomfortable.
It's also exposure, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So there's another event that's happening in June, and this guy Steven Martinez, who's leading this charge, and it's about helping the Latin community see themselves greater than they are, right? Like not being necessarily being stuck in as the cook in the back or the driver, you know, of the whatever, or all those kind of lower end paying jobs that a lot of the Latins get stuck in because they come from wherever as an immigrant and they get stuck in those situations, and to see yourself as the opportunity to actually be an entrepreneur and do that. So a lot of that has to do with exposure. So he's creating an event to bring all these people together so they can be exposed to guys like me and other speakers that have gone from nothing and built something to say, hey, you can do it. Like, just because you grew up one way and this is how it is does not mean it's where you end up, right? It's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? Just because you started the race a little bit slower doesn't mean you can't finish on top and win, right? And it's scary because like when you're working somewhere for so long, it's scary to say, you know what? It's just like when I first went on straight commission. That's a scary transition.
Oh yeah.
I remember I was in my early 20s. I went from a great salary, running a marketing campaign with a bunch of door-to-door guys, and I built this whole thing up to going on straight commission, going in home, closing deals. And that was a scary transition, but it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I went from making, you know, I had an 80 grand a year salary at 23 years old, plus bonuses. It was a great job, right? Security, which is false, but it was a great job, to going on straight commission. And within a few months, I was quadrupling and 5Xing what I was making as this. And I realized, wow, I wasn't working any harder.
Yeah.
You know, some people, like if you're going to put everything you have into like we have construction, we own a construction company, one of our businesses. These guys bust their ass. These guys work hard, right? And if you just took that same work ethic and you went on straight commission, you would make 10 times more money. But people don't see that. They think that if they show up and they do their job, and they do a good job, and they get that paycheck, that's what they're worth. And it's not.
Well, some people will also look at commission only and be like, well, what if I show up, bust my ass, and make no money that day? Which happens, especially starting out.
Effort doesn't equal zero. Every time you knock a door, every time you meet with a customer, even if you fail, you've gotten one step closer to the yes that pays you. So it's not, it's never for naught. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if on this table there was 100 pieces of paper, and I told you that under 10 of them there was $1,000, but I didn't tell you which 10.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you fucking flip all those pieces of paper to find that cash?
Right.
Of course you would. Well, that's sales. Who cares? You went one day without selling. Okay, it happens.
Yep.
But you know that in out of 100 of them, 10 of them have $1,000 cash. Who gives a shit what happened today?
Yep.
You just got to keep going hard. And what happens is maybe when you start off, it's only 5 of them with $1,000 underneath it. But after 6 months, it's 15 of them because you've gotten better at the job. You know how to convert at a higher rate.
Yep.
And that only happens from pushing through. Most salespeople quit in the first couple of weeks because it's not easy. Right? And that adversity and constant rejection, it floods, it pushes people out. Oh yeah. Which is, I guess that's a good thing for guys that will actually stick to it. But for me, it's a bad thing because I want to see people succeed. The best thing for me is when I hire someone brand new, they come in, kick ass, and they go and get a big paycheck, more than they've ever made in whatever they've been doing in the past. And they go, damn, I can do this.
Like it changes your whole perspective.
Yeah, it's red pill, blue pill. You've just changed it. You can't go back now. Once you go and make, let's say you're on straight committee, you were making $600 a week working at wherever you're working at, and that's how you $15 an hour, whatever it is. You go into a commission kind of job and you get that first $2,000 paycheck, let's say $3,000 paycheck. How are you going to go back? Really? You're going to go take that hourly and make them tell you what to do instead of having the freedom of an autonomy of being a self-made person that goes out and relies on their own ability to produce than someone else telling them what they're worth, you can't go back.
It's like door to door as an example, right? You could have 50 no's knocking doors, right? All you need is one yes that day. That's $2-3 grand, obviously depending on
It all
what everything
depends on the
is,
thing, right?
the kilometers and all that stuff.
It is if you do it every day. So like,
Yeah.
and depending on what you're selling. So we created a system because, you know, I've been in door to door for over a decade in that industry in direct sales and from door to door to in-home sales and all that. And the hardest barrier to entry is new people, recruiting them and then getting them paid fast. And so that has been our focus. And how do we make that happen? How do we take someone, you know, 20 in early 20s, mid 20s, who's never done, you know, sales before? They're already scared out of their mind, right? Their parents are saying it's a scam, right? Everyone's saying there's no, you know, you can't be on straight commission. It's whatever. What if you don't make any money, right? And what they don't realize is that when you're your age, that's when you take the risk, right?
Exactly.
That's why you look at a risk portfolio, and even in the biggest companies and the S&Ps and all the mutual funds, they make you higher risk when you're younger and lower risk when you're older. So when you're younger, that's the time to make the risk. So figure out if commission's for you. You don't know until you give it everything you have for at least 6 months.
Yep.
Right. But so anyway, we wanted to create a way for someone to come in new to actually be able to make money. Or else they quit and they're gone and the sale sucks. That's how it works.
Yep.
Right. And so we can get specific into what we do, which is, you know, public adjusting, roofing, and solar. And we do all of that. And we just found the easiest path to entry is through roofing because, you know, we have the insurance companies pay for the roof replacement. So when you're knocking on a door, instead of trying to sell them something they know is expensive, we say, hey, look, you know you need to replace your roof. It's been destroyed by the storm. I'm going to get your insurance company to pay for it. That way you don't have to. Is that fair? Like everybody's like, yeah, I mean, if you can get the insurance company to pay for it, I'm down. So it's an easy barrier to entry for someone who's new, and they can get paid for every claim that's generated.
Yep.
Right? And then they get paid on the solar when it eventually sells for solar, which is that conversion from roof to solar that we figured out. But that way we can get guys that are brand new making money fast, and that's the key.
Yeah. Because you want to hook them, right? It's like, because whether it's their parents, whether it's themselves, just doubting themselves, being like, this is going to be tough. Like, you want to be able to flip that switch right off the bat. For you specifically, in door-to-door starting out, were you successful right away? Did it take some time?
So there are a few people that are very lucky, I guess, in sales, where I was one of the lucky ones in that I had I don't know what you call it, but I could get a lot of people to say yes to me at the door. That didn't mean I was a good canvasser.
Yeah.
Okay, because getting someone to say yes to you at the door does not mean that's going to convert into a sale.
That's right.
And I was good at getting people to say yes at the door, but not good at them converting later on to actually buy product. And I had to learn how to write better quality leads in order for that conversion rate to go up. And that took some time. But the natural ability to go out and just get people to say, yeah, sure, like whatever, that I had. But there's different levels to the sales cycle.
Right.
And, you know, everyone's at a different level when they start, where they are in 6 months, where they are from 6 months to a year, where they are in 4 years to 6 years. There's all these different levels of the ability, right? And then once you figure that out, then it's how do you teach and train other people? So I was fortunate enough to have some good traction at the beginning as far as getting leads, but the conversion rate was trash. And I, you know, as a young guy at 22 years old, you think you're hot shit. And I had people tell me that we've been doing it for 15 years say your leads suck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to go there. And that really, really hits, right? It's like, okay, I'm affecting other people's lives. And that's a beautiful thing. Because, you know, sales it's a really important part of the process, because without sales, nothing happens. Like, without salespeople, there is no business.
Yep.
Without marketing, without sales, every company, no matter where it's at, is trash. It doesn't exist. So you need to have that stuff. Even hospitals. Hospitals have outreach. They're trying to gain new customers all the time. So without new customers, all the rest of it all the other stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
Now, once you have production, all that other stuff matters a whole lot, right? That's the back end. This is where you become a real business. So like, let's say a solar company that's just a sales company, all they do is sell. That's not a real business. It's not a real business until you have responsibility. Okay? If you're good at recruiting and selling, that's great.
Yeah.
That is fundamental. But the back end, building a reel, that's why it's funny because Instagram is like all over the place with solar. If you know, because I'm new, you're in the game, so you see it. Like everybody your age, like everybody wants to sell solar because of the commissions and all this kind of stuff. There's this hype around it, and a lot of it's fluff, is what we're finding out. We've been in solar for 1.5 years, so we're like really diving into the whole game. And it's interesting because you'll see these sales companies, right? And most of them don't drive nice cars. They rent them for a picture. They say they're doing all this and that. You go to their office and it's like it's ugly. It's like it's not nothing special. But then you go to the installation company, the guys that are actually putting the solar on, and they have these beautiful big offices and trucks everywhere and all this infrastructure. And then you ask them, hey, what do you got to do to be there's no money in installation, man. All the money's in sales. You just stay in sales. And this is what you hear, right? But me, because I've been on both sides. I know because we install our own stuff and we sell our own stuff. The money's in install. The money's in controlling the finance.
So they're just driving you away, basically?
Yeah, they're telling you don't do it. There's no money in it. And they're like, look at this office, man. Like, how can you say there's no money in it? Right? But they paint that picture to everybody, and they scare everybody away from actually taking the responsibility. So the thing with sales, like once you sell, you're done. You have to go sell another one. Because actually, I was reading something this morning. These guys that have a couple $100 million in real estate portfolio, and they have a book, and I was just kind of reading it, and because that's going to be one of our next ventures is really diving into either multifamily or commercial. I don't know yet, but we're going to dump some money into that. So we want to be prepared before we do it. And one of the things and it's right, like no matter what business that you're in, if it's transactional, you're always chasing it.
Yeah.
Once you get into that like real estate portfolio, the chase is done. It's coming no matter what, right? And so I think it's important that another subject, and the way my mind works, man, is I
love it,
dude. I'm going in every direction at the same time, and that's why I have people around me that help me focus and stay on track. And it's like you can see where it needs to be, but getting there's a different story, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to make money. It's unbelievable. Like that's what I say. I wasn't a part of social media for a long time because I'm like, look, man, I'm just gonna build my shit. I got to make my money. I need to grab these guys and teach them how to sell. I need to make sure that our construction projects are going in properly. I need to make sure that all these different pieces of the pie are in puzzle are coming cohesively and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't need social media. It's a waste of my time. And then I got pushed into it in a way, like kind of forced into it. Like, Dan, you got to get in the game. And it's been a good ride. Like I've been how long? I don't know, 6 months, maybe 8 months now.
Roughly
7 months. 7-8 months. That's how long I've been in social media. I don't know how many pieces of content we've done. I can't even count them. Been on great podcasts with guys like you and different shows, and I speak all the time. So it's already kind of I'm in a habit of doing that.
Yeah.
But it's important. I didn't realize how important it was until we started doing it, because it connects you. It connects you with people that are in other places that may be able to bring value not only to you, but to your organization, and for you to them, and to help expand and grow. Because just like there's hungry people in business that are trying to get it, Instagram, social media, that whole world it's a business, and people are hungry there, and they're trying to grow too. So it's like connecting all that together.
That's right. And what this is just having a conversation, which obviously you're very great at, like it's not like, oh, you're going on a talk show. There are certain things you got to do, certain things you have to say. Like, it's just like anything else. It's just all being recorded for your benefit. So your audience, which is going to grow exponentially over time, can all see that, which helps your business, helps them create a successful income for themselves, which creates successful and more happy lives for other people, which is the end game for you guys.
100%. I mean, that's the whole goal, man, is providing value to people. Look, I'm a go hard. Like I'm the kind of guy that I'll get in people's face. And
for sure.
Like yesterday, I was giving a meeting to our sales team, and I pop in and out now just to kind of like give them some hype or whatever.
Yeah.
And I made this girl cry. I wasn't trying to make her cry. I wasn't even necessarily directing it at her in the conversation, but sometimes when you really pierce people's souls, right? And you say, look, man, like if you're showing up here and you're not giving everything you have, then don't show up here.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't memorize your script, if you don't know this back and forth, then you're not a professional. And you're just wasting your time and everyone else's that's around you. And you say stuff like that and you think like, well, that's real though. Like, that's the real deal. And that's what pierces people's hearts. And they go, damn, he's right. Like, I'm not giving this my all. How is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to you. It's not fair to anyone else. And like, especially in door to door, you have to be self-driven. You're not relying, no one's standing behind you saying, hey man, get to work. Like no one's there for you to do that. You have to be self-motivated. And then you have the elements, you're outside, right? It could be hot. It could be cold.
Yep.
It could be raining. It could be whatever the weather is. Then you have homeowners saying, hey, get a real job, buddy. I don't deal with people that come to my door.
Yep.
I'm not interested in none of that stuff. And so you have adversity on that side. So there's a lot of adversity in door to door, which is why the reward is so great for those that actually stick through it and make it a career, right? Not just, and it's transitionary. So door to door is supposed to be a transition for you. You learn the skills, you learn the communication skills, you learn how to build yourself, right? And then you have a decision to make. You can start building others, building a team, growing your organization.
That's right.
Or you can just stay a top producer, or now you have the skill set and communication, you can go anywhere and do anything, right? So I chose to stay within that door-to-door space and build my portfolio that way. And that led me into eventually starting my own businesses, and now we're in multiple different businesses in multiple different states, and I love providing value and helping young people that don't see that path, help them kind of create a clear path for that it's possible. This is not a pipe dream. I don't live a pipe dream. I go to work every day, and some people say, well, you already have all these things. Why do you go so hard all the time? It's because, man, I don't know if you know Andy Elliott.
Of course.
Yeah, fucking animal, right? And his mentality is like, if I don't, someone's going to take my shit. And that's a crazy way to think about it. Like, but it's true. Like, we are in competition. As soon as you turn 18, who are you compared to? It's called the age of majority, right? So once you're 18, you're compared to 65-year-olds. It doesn't fucking matter how you started.
Yep.
All that matters is that 65-year-old has millions of dollars in the bank and you don't. That's all that fucking matters. You're in the age of majority.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how far behind you are. So I think about that like I'm 36 and I feel so far behind. And there's people around me, they say, what do you mean? Look at all the stuff you built. I say, I am far behind. And it's I don't know why people have trouble saying who they really are in themselves, right? Like, I can see when I talk to someone like Andy or Brad or guys that are like, have done a lot more than I have. You have to be able to recognize that and say, look, I'm not where I think I am. I'm not who and where I think I am.
Yep.
And in order for me to get there, I have to give everything I have into it to get there. So I mean, it's intense, man. But we have one chance to like do the things in life that we want. One last part of that is it's not even the money we're chasing.
Nope. Well, money's just a tool at the end of the day, right? Like, so many people get tied up in thinking like, money, I need money to pay my bills. I need money to do this thing that I want to do on Saturday night. And like, most of those people who are content with, the security of having those 9-to-5 jobs and just doing that forever, not necessarily just because like that's all they're knowledgeable about and they don't want to take the risks, but at the same time, they're just not wanting to, like, their bucket list per se is not as big as yours probably is. You want to accomplish a lot of things in life. And in order to accomplish those things, you have to create.
If you really ask somebody what's important to them, they might say, well, I want to be successful. I want to have a nice car. I want to have a nice house. I want to be able to take vacations when I want. They have these things that they want. Everybody has like those things.
But they're vague.
They're relatively vague, but they're all usually around the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not the money you're chasing. It's time. Time is the most valuable commodity that exists. Fuck money. It's the time. But without the money, you don't have the luxury of making that choice on how you want to spend your time. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, then money is the only thing that controls your life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't control your life. Money does. I don't want money to control my life. I want to be able to have the choice of how I use my time. Because time, if I want to spend time with my family, if I want to go on a trip anytime I fucking want to anywhere I want, those choices only come from excess funds. That's what we're fighting for. It's for our time to be able to make the choices we want. No one cares. When you get to a certain level, it's not about the money. Like I just bought a property, dropped $250,000. Don't care.
Yep.
It's not about the money. I don't care. It's about the time, because those investments that you build over the years. So when it's harder, like you're older, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s, you're in your 60s, and you don't want to fucking go hard all day long anymore, right? Now you have the ability to choose what you do with your time.
Yep.
That's what's important. Mm-hmm. It's not the money, but there is. Everyone's living paycheck to paycheck.
But it's like you just explained that perfectly too. You nailed it right on the head of just because there are people who are in their mid 60s right now who are still working those full-time jobs and are just about to, settle down and retire with their Roth IRAs or their 401ks, like, all right, I got enough saved up. I can finally retire. Like it's just a completely different mindset that I feel like you obviously were exposed to early on. Like, I don't want to live that life. I was exposed to it early on. Don't want to live that life. Like, I want to be able to spend my time the way I want to spend it. Because at the end of the day, that's what sets your soul on fire, right? That's what makes you wake up every day and do what you want to do. Not just for your wife and your kids, but for the people that work with you, the people that invest their time into you. Because at the end of the day, when you're building out your own team, like, you need to show these people, like, I'm leading by example. Like, I've gone through the trenches. I've gone into the jungle. And I've figured this stuff out, and I know that you can too if you just apply all of these same assets and things that I did.
No, it's exactly, man. And I think one of the keys is having a good mentor.
Yeah.
Finding people in your life that are where you want to be or are on the path and direction that you're trying to go. Mm-hmm. And when I was your age, okay, I was finding guys in their mid 40s and 50s that were already successful, and I would align with them. And I made some bad choices in those characters because they took advantage of my youth and my drive.
I was going to ask, like, you probably had some very successful mentors that probably knew, like, he's not that knowledgeable about this stuff. And
so this is the way actually one of my mentors explained it to me. He's like, business is like a wall, okay? And you get to this wall and you start to climb up this wall and you finally can see over the wall and you see that there's another wall. Okay. And then you start climbing that wall, you get to the top and you see there's another wall. Mm-hmm. Okay. And business continues like that. And what happens is as you get older and you're building your business, you've now climbed so many walls, right? There's always another wall there, but you can look back and see how far you've gone. So when someone who's younger, they're at that first wall, second wall, third wall, they're climbing up that wall. You already know all the walls that they're about to climb on. You can completely wrap them up in barbed wire and take advantage of them. And that's what some of the bad actors do in the industries, where they'll take advantage of the youth, and then the young guys don't get that to really get the fruits of their labor. Mm-hmm. And that was the situation I put myself in a few times because I wanted to grow so fast. I was so hungry. I just wanted so bad that I'm willing to do whatever it takes and align myself with whoever and learn all those things. And I learned a lot because he said, Dan, what you want in your 20s is to make money like you're in your 40s. Mm-hmm. But you can't make money like you're in your 40s unless you can think and act and are responsible like you're in your 40s. Yeah. Well, how in the hell are you supposed to do that in your 20s? Mm-hmm. Like,
and all you're thinking is like, cha-ching, like I have an opportunity to make a lot of money here.
How do you do that, right? So it's a lot. So I'm constantly trying to see farther than my age. Kind of like the act your wage kind of thing, kind of like that. But there are walls, and that's why I say experience is the best teacher, because you can't, like, I can tell you, hey, put one foot in front of the other. There's a hole right there. Grab onto that thing and whatever as you climb the wall. We can go through that in a way, but nothing beats you actually going through that. Mm-hmm. So there are levels to entrepreneurship that you're going to go through failures. And I have failed a whole hell of a lot. And that's the great thing about door to door. It teaches you, like, you're going to fail every fucking day.
Yep.
Every single day, there's going to be someone that tells you to fuck off.
Yep.
You might have to kick a dog. If they're trying to bite you never know what's going to be going on in that day, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to deal with something, right? Don't kick dogs. Just saying, you're going to have to go through stuff, but that teaches you, it hardens you, it creates a shell around you, right? So like, okay, you've gone door to door for a couple of years, you've built that callus, you know you know what it takes to go through adversity, you know what it takes to get to that success because you have to go through a lot of adversity. Now you're ready to go through all kinds of adversity. And it's not just door to door. I talk a lot about door to door because that's how I did it.
Yeah.
But if you're hungry and you're motivated and you're driven and you're ready to attack, it doesn't matter which path you take. Door to door is an easier one because it kind of gives you a focus on it. But no matter what path you take in life, you're going to have those walls that come in front of you. Mm-hmm. And if you're hungry and you're motivated enough, you'll go through them. You'll climb them up and you'll see that there's another one. But if you can line yourself with someone who's been there already, that is successful or on the path you want to be on, they can help guide you. They can help lift you at those areas where you're confused. Come on, I already know. I've already been. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to have some of that because the worst thing is like going through all this stuff by yourself. It's harder to grow. Right. That's why like we have partnerships with different owners, and each partner is at a different level and whatever, and it's a responsibility. But it's so that we have expertise in each one of these areas. Right. There's no way that I can learn everything. Right. We can learn a lot, but there's no way for us to learn it all. Mm-hmm. So you want to have a team, and that's the other thing. Solar is giving you the ability as one person to make a lot of money. That's great, but you're not going to make generational money, generational wealth by yourself.
Yep.
Ain't going to happen. You have to learn how to build teams. Mm-hmm. And that's where leadership comes in. And how do you lead? You lead by example and you care about your people.
Yeah. And do you think based on your experiences, having mentors that took advantage of you just made you want to be a much better mentor to your
100%,
proteges?
man. 100%. And people have a natural fear of trust.
For sure.
And it's even worse for guys like me who've actually been taken advantage of pretty hardcore. But I had the option. I had the option a long time ago. I was selling and I was making great money and I didn't have to worry about anybody but me, right? And I had the option, and this is after one of my businesses my first construction business that I built went down because I got taken advantage of by the partner I had, who was a lot older than me. And I had a decision to make. And I was selling, and like I said, I was making good money. You can make good money if you're a good sales guy. Do I want to build another business and deal with that type of thing again? Or do I just go and sell and just make my money and not have to worry about anybody else? And there was something inside of me, I just couldn't. It was not fulfilling. Didn't matter how much money I made, it was just not fulfilling. I need to be building something and helping people and doing those things. So I think some of that is a natural just leadership quality that maybe some people have, some people don't have. I think you can learn some basics, just anybody can, as far as some management and leadership skills. But for me anyway, and personally, like I have to be a part of something bigger, and I have to be building. And I love when I see people change their lives. I see someone come in and they're broke and they're buying now a brand new car. Mm-hmm. Right. Or they come in, they don't know what they're doing in our company. We put them in a position that they're successful at, and now they're buying a house. Mm-hmm. Right. Like those kind of life-changing things that happen when you align yourself with good people. That's another area where it motivates me, on top of like obviously my own financial and gain there. Mm-hmm.
So how do you know because I'm sure anybody who's interested, who wants to create a better life for themselves, a better income, just a better overall lifestyle, how do you know? Because I feel like you're the type of guy that could figure out quickly who's going to fit and who's not when you bring them onto your team.
You mean as far as like if they're going to be a good fit to our culture?
You know whether, obviously culture is everything, but at the same time, you probably know if they're going to have that drive or not, that instinct right away.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times what you can do is you can create core values in your company. So if you have, we have our core four, mm-hmm. right? And you create your core values in your organization. They could be whatever they need to be. It's whatever your mission is. And you break it down to like a couple things, and then we hire and fire based on these.
Yeah.
Right. So if you come into our company and you're not someone who's going to, do whatever it takes, right? And let's say that's number one. Do whatever it takes. Okay. No excuses. As soon as someone starts giving you excuses, you know they're not falling in line with that core four. And you can test people in an interview if that's going to be someone that's going to be a good fit or not. Right. And you can create scenarios that, hey, let me ask you, if this challenge came up and you were not able to meet the deadline and it was because of this reason, and your boss came to you and said, hey, man, you didn't get it done, what would you say? Mm-hmm. And if they give you, well, it was his fault, obviously, you just said it was his. Now you know that's someone who's going to make excuses when they don't reach those deadlines. So you know that they're not going to align themselves with the core four.
Yep.
Now, if it's still a strong candidate, maybe you help them understand why that's not a good answer, or how to mold them into taking responsibility and full responsibility for themselves and the decisions that happen and the results that come from those decisions. And if you can get them to align with that, maybe that's a good hire. But you need to vet those people. And we've made bad hiring decisions. Like trust me, we have done it, right? Especially at the beginning. It's getting better. It's a lot better now because we have, you start off in, I don't know if you saw Brandon Dawson with the Cardone Group. Right. And he created this kind of visual for where a company is based on its revenue. And I was looking at that going, damn, that's like right spot on. Because I remember each stage and like what we were dealing with at that time, and it was spot on. So I'm sure it's consistent then with every kind of business. So, you have your startup, and then you have your core leadership, and then you have your systems and processes, and then you have executive leadership, and those are based on the millions that you're doing on in your company. So you try to, like, as you build, you build in these layers, and these layers help you accelerate the growth. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not building those layers in your organization, it's very difficult to move forward and grow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that has to do with good hiring decisions, and it's hard to do at the beginning.
Yeah,
it's hard because, dude, we were at a kitchen table. I'm like, I'm gonna build a multi-million-dollar company. I promise you. We got dogs barking and cats walking around and canned food everywhere. And it was our office manager who let us use her house, right, to start our company. And I'm bringing people in at interviews, and I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this is going to be a multi-million-dollar company. They're like, dude, look at your office. It's not even an office. And now we have this beautiful office and all these things. And it was just a vision that we knew we were going to do it. So you just have to muscle through it.
Yeah. There's no other way.
There's literally no other way.
Yeah.
A lot of people think like, it's even the same with with you, right? You've been doing this thing for 7 years. You're good at this, right? Anyone that does it for 7 years is going to be good at it. I tell people, look, I'm not that great at sales. I mean, I'm a good sales guy, right? Yeah. But anyone that's been doing it a decade is going to be good at it.
Yep.
It's just the time you put in, and like how important is it for you to be good at sales? Is it important enough to take 10 years to study the greats and become one of the best at it? Mm-hmm. Or is it not that important to you where you're just going to show up like it's a regular job, and as soon as you leave work, you're done, clock out. Let me go smoke weed and chill out and play some video games.
That's right. I feel like instant gratification these days is just, I don't even know how to explain it, because like instant gratification is so overrated. People just think that that's normal to get right away. Or it's like if you look back 5-6 years down the road, starting out, like those 5-6 years may have sucked, but by year 7, year 8, year 9, you're looking back thinking like, I'm so thankful I went through all of that, because you learn so much along the way. You learn from all the mistakes, all the different mistakes you've made personally, people you've aligned yourself with, actions you took, and you could take those experiences and learn from them, and then all of a sudden, I'm succeeding at a rapid pace come year 7, year 8, year 9. And it's a completely different life that you didn't know that you were going to be able to live.
Yeah, I didn't know at 22 years old when I took the sales job, the door-to-door job, that I'd end up where I am, and the companies and all these. I had no idea. I was just like, man, I kind of like this shit.
Yeah.
Right. I went door to door, and I'm like, I kind of dig this game, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't see it that way. They look at everything as like a job. Like I don't there's no such thing as a job. Like just over broke, like whatever. Like you just want to show up and do the minimum, and like I don't know. I don't know.
That's the other thing. They're making like a guaranteed salary. It's not a lot of money, but they're making a guaranteed salary to just sit at a desk where they can just kind of F around all day. Like they don't really have to put in the maximum amount of effort because they're going to be getting paid the exact same, at least on a base salary wise.
Well, that's your risk versus reward, right? And I was talking to some guys about this yesterday. It's like, which guy would you rather hire? The one that says pay me and I'll show you, or the one that says I'm going to show you and then you'll pay me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on.
Right?
Right. You're, of course, like if you're a business owner, you're thinking, okay, this guy needs to get paid a certain amount for him to show me what he can do. And this guy says he'll prove it and then he'll show me what his value is based on his results. I'm taking that dude every time. Right. And people don't see that. They think, oh, I deserve this.
Yeah.
You deserve what you get paid. Like the market dictates your income. That's why you go on ZipRecruiter or Jobbing or Monster or Indeed and type in how much your position pays.
That's right.
That's what you're worth, dude. That's it. You can argue with me all you want, but the market dictates value. Yep. That's why I love sales, because there's no dictation of value in sales. It's based on you. And if you think you're worth more, go sell more.
Yep.
And if you want to learn how to sell more, study sales. So yesterday I was piercing people's souls in this meeting, and I wasn't trying to do it. I was just being real, right? I'm like, look, dude, how many sales training videos are out there online right now?
Oh, too many.
Could you ever watch them all?
No.
Probably not. So you're never going to be the best at sales ever. How are you not getting better at your job? And whose fault is that? You're showing up here like it's a party. This ain't a fucking party. We'll do the party after we hit our key metrics. We hit our goals. We'll fucking party,
yep.
Right? But until then, this is grind time. And what people think like, oh, well, when I go in the house, I'll make it happen. I'm different at the door.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. I'm different at the door than here in the office. Oh, really? So you don't need to practice how you play. Tell that to the guys in the league.
Yep. The way you practice is the way you play. I learned that at 6 years old.
That's it.
Right?
But it's relating things. So I grew up playing sports.
Yep.
So sports was an easy analogy for me in sales. It was almost like the same thing. Because like at the end of a basketball game, you look at after the Suns game, I like to do this, and I look at the stats. Who did what? Same thing in sales. There's a stat sheet, and it shows you who you are. You could say, man, I should have scored 50 that game. You didn't. You scored 20. Like that's just the way that
Yep.
So that's why it was easy for me to relate sales with sports. And a lot of people don't do that. They don't look at the competitive side of sales, and they think it's just another job.
Yep.
And it's not. Like if you take it and you look at it like, hey, I am my numbers. I can say whatever I want. It's just like you are your bank account. Like that's what you are. Like you can sit here and try to lie to your, well, I believe I'm a millionaire. Well, if you don't have a net worth of $1 million, or you don't make a certain number of amount of money every year, or you don't have that amount of money in the bank, and you're not. There's no, you can't make believe this shit, right? And so it's stats. And if you fall in love with that statistic, if you say, look, the great thing about sales is it's not who's the biggest. It's not who's the fastest. It's not who's the strongest. That's what gets people into the actual sports arena and to the highest levels, and their work ethic and drive and all that stuff. That's what gets them in sports. Mm-hmm. In sales, it's just who's going to put in the most effort. It's one thing that you got to focus on.
Yep.
Right? It's not a natural talent that drives your stat sheet. That might help you, right? When you get into the levels of the greats, okay? You're not going to get into the levels of like the Andys or the guys like that, the Bradleys, unless you're one of the greats. That's fine. You don't need to be the top 0.0001% of the game. You don't to have a great life and all that. You don't need that. But to elevate into the level where you can make just great money and have a great life, you just got to have work ethic and believe in yourself. That's it. And it's an open door for anybody. It's an open door for literally anybody that wants to change their life. That's why I fell in love with sales.
I mean, to use a sports analogy, I grew up with Derek Jeter as our shortstop with the Yankees. That dude, not even close to being the best athlete on the field. He wasn't even the best shortstop on that team, but he worked harder than everybody else in the league. And he'll tell you that himself. And that's why he's a 5-time World Series champ, first ballot Hall of Famer. He's not even close to being the most talented. But he, from a mentality standpoint, knew I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to step on you with all due respect because I want to be the best.
That's what it is, man. And I have the utmost respect for people who take that initiative. You're not going to listen to a fat doctor tell you how to get skinny. I don't care.
Do you know how many trainers there are at like EOS Fitnesses around here that are completely out of shape?
You're right, trying to tell you how to...
And I'm like, what's going on here?
It's crazy, right? You have to lead by example. And that's why when I said like align yourself with someone that's doing it, not who has done it, someone who's actually actively doing it. Now you can learn from people who are successful in life, right? Like, hey, look, man, I put my shoes up because I've already got it and I can show you how to do it. Like if you have guys like that in your life, great, you can learn from those people. But the reality is you got to look for the people that are actually doing it. One of the problems though is that social media makes you think everybody's fucking doing it. And that's not true.
Yeah.
There's still only 1% that make all the money, right? And it's who are the real 1%ers. That's hard to identify.
That's right.
Right? And so that's where like, social media kind of blurs that a little bit because anybody can look like online that there's somebody special. Like not that they're not special, but like they're actually successful in monetarily, if that's what we're talking about. But finding real ones that are actually doing it, that's a different story, right? That's why you're seeing a lot of people that when you have a financial crisis, like what we're heading into right now, the real businesses, they stay. All the fluff goes away, and those guys are the ones that end up broke.
Yep.
So it's you can't believe everything that you see online. You have to vet things thoroughly. Like I went, and I bring Andy up a lot in our meetings because he's one of the best I've ever seen and I've been around the motivational speakers my entire career because I wanted to be good at that, right? I want to be able to use my words to influence and help people see a better future. Yeah. So I align myself with that type of ideology, and I see Andy and I every single day. I mean, the guy is like on fire, like relentless.
Yep.
And that's the type of person that someone like me, he's ahead of me. He's got 7 years, I think, on me, 7 years older. And I look up to that. I see someone who's actually doing it, who's every single day, everything they have into pouring into making himself better, pouring into his team and making sure that his guys see that he's there for them, pouring into his company to make sure that they have all the things there that are required, but also holding everyone around him accountable. There's no bullshit.
Yep.
We actually just hired this girl that came from Grant Cardone's team. Mm-hmm. And she said that the thing about working there is you are all day nonstop. There is no breaks.
Yeah.
And she said she didn't like that. I said, well, you came to the wrong place. Because I want that, right? But at the same time, there is a level of, okay, I want people to have a good work environment, but I also want people that are going to give everything they have. And she said that basically at Grant Cardone says like, you are going to die at this company.
Yeah.
You are going to give everything you have into this organization, or else you can't be here. Andy says the same thing.
Yep.
So that's the deal, right? Like, you want to be successful in life, it takes that. And you have to be around leaders that are willing to hold you accountable to that.
That's right.
Like, I don't care. Trust me, I hated Coach. When things got rough and he was yelling and screaming at me to run and all this kind of stuff, I hated Coach. But when we won the game, okay, now we understand.
Yep.
Right? When we get the trophy, now we want to understand it. Mm-hmm. We don't understand it in the moment when we're getting screamed at on the sideline. But we understand it when we win. Mm-hmm. And that's the responsibility of a leader. Is like, I don't care what you think right now about me, because my job's not to let you fail. And if I know already, because I've already been through these walls and I've already climbed them up and I know what's coming, either you're going to listen to what I'm going to tell you because I know how to help you win this thing, or you can get out the way.
That's right.
And that's just how it has to be sometimes.
What do you think's tougher as a leader? Not necessarily yelling, but motivating your team when they're doing poorly or when they're doing extremely well and they feel like they could take a breather where you're like,
Both.
no, keep going.
Both. You're like the guardrail in bowling.
Yeah.
Put the fucking rail up for the kids because they'll throw the ball wherever, right? That's how our minds are. Our minds are not going to go one track all the way. That's a robot. I try to be as close to a robot as I can be in business.
Yeah.
Because it's required, right? It's my responsibility is to make sure that I'm always leading the charge by leading by example so people can see that. But most people's minds start to wander, right? Either they're getting too hot or they're getting too cold. And the leader's job is to keep those guardrails up and say, well, wait a minute. Hey, just because you got a couple sales this week doesn't mean that you've hit the lottery. Okay. We got a lot of work to do. We got a future to build. Okay. These deals are not going to get you paid for the rest of your life. Let's go. Get your ass back in line.
Yep.
Right. And same thing when you get too low. Hey, look, man, I know it's tough. I know you think you can't do this, but I wouldn't have brought you onto this team if I didn't see potential in you that you could accomplish this and change your family's future forever.
Yep.
Let's go. If you need help, I'll show you. Right. So that's the responsibility of the leader is to be those guardrails right there. Don't let them get too hot. Don't let them get too cold. Let's focus in and let's strike this thing.
Yeah. And you could probably tell when they're leaning either way, like probably well before they are leaning that way. You're thinking like, okay, they kind of showed up today. We're kind of lackluster. Like, oh, they showed up today. They were kind of arrogant today. Like you could just tell little things. It's like, all right, we have to stay on course. Like it's not about today. It's not about tomorrow. It's about 10 years down the line. What are you going to make out of yourself?
That's right. I mean, look, businesses fail left and right.
That's right.
What makes one different than the other? It's the leadership. It's the team, right? And I was at SolarCon recently up in Utah, and Andy said, he's like, the problem with the solar industry is you guys are all backstabbers. No, there's no loyalty, which comes down to leadership, right? So all these guys are chasing red lines. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to pay me? Who's going to give me the best deal? Who's going to this? It's greed driving the industry. And that's causing a huge problem in solar because there's no loyalty. There's no commitment. There's no like, hey, we're going to do this together for a long time and build something cool. It's just pure greed that drives the solar industry, which is unfortunate. Yeah. And so hopefully that starts to change with more regulation and, the government's kind of coming in and the banks coming in and trying to help regulate the greed in the industry that's happening. Because it needs that. It needs to be more stable. And it's crazy because going into solar a little bit, solar guys think they're hot shit.
Yep.
A lot of them are young guys, hot shots, whatever. And there's some of them are great sales guys and they're warranted to have a feeling of accomplishment because they're selling on a consistent basis. And then we look at the roofing contractors. There is 10 times more roofing contractors than there are solar companies. Like it's not even close. Okay. Roofing has been around since there have been buildings. Solar's the new guys coming in. These industries don't like each other. Okay. You think about it.
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand, but they don't like each other. Yeah. Okay. The solar guy looks at the roof as a necessary part to get to sell his solar if the roof is busted up. The roof looks at solar like a bunch of young guys lying to customers, cheating and stealing. My dad was a roofer. My grandfather was a roofer. His grandfather was a roofer. Name a solar guy that can say that. You can't. Okay. So it's a different type of industry. It's a different type of business, right? So they don't like each other. We are a conduit. We are bringing this industry together on both sides, saying, look, solar guys, you need to provide value to your customers. You can't be Mr. Home Efficiency guy and not understand roofing. You don't understand ventilation. You don't understand how a roof works. You need to learn these things to provide a real value to your customer. You are lying, cheating, and stealing. You're trying to get the cheapest roof you can so it doesn't fuck your commission up. That's not what's in the best interest of the consumer. That is the definition of lying, cheating, and stealing.
Yep.
Right? So you need to learn that. Roofing guys, nobody is on more roofs than you. You need to understand how solar, the product, can benefit a consumer and need to be offering that as a service, or else you are doing a disservice to your client. Because solar is in itself as a product, as an industry, good for the consumer. So we are working on being that conduit between both, because we work with everybody.
Yep.
And as an adjuster, we're able to leverage insurance companies to get everything approved by the insurance they need to get, like if the roof is damaged by a storm. So a lot of roofing contractors have no idea that even exists. Solar guys have no idea even what's going on a roof. So we're building that bridge between those industries, and bringing solar guys, bringing contractors in and saying, hey, here's the game plan, how we're going to help all these customers.
At the end of the day, like, life is sales, in a sense. Like, everybody wants to win. Why can't we all help each other?
That's right. Nobody. It's because it's like it's ego.
Yeah.
Right. If you have two roofing contractors don't like each other because they're competing with each other, right? Two solar guys don't like each other because they're competing with each other. It's that ego that's driving a lot of this. And if people just lower the ego and it's like, hey, we can work together and build something really, really great and package together something for consumers that they can benefit, not just in one area, but multiple, right? That's why for us as an organization, we offer so many products, and we don't sell them all every time, but we want to have the ability to really be a one-stop shop for a customer.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you have original windows. It's not about if, it's when. And I have the best financing on the planet with solar. So we'll leverage the solar financing, lower your utility costs with windows, with a new AC, and be able to fix rate those utilities over the next forever, as long as those panels are on that roof. So there's so many ways that you can benefit customers by just opening up a little bit and understanding the industry you're in. And I'm sure that's consistent with every industry, no matter what it is.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you coming in today. I know you're a busy guy. I'll let you get to it. What would you say for anybody listening that wants to change their life? Obviously not being there quite financially is a stinging feeling for most, especially kids my age. If not, people your age that are going through it, right? That's probably an even worse feeling because you got mouths to provide for. What do you say to those people who are looking for an opportunity?
What I would say is, if you've never tried sales, give it a shot. And not just for a couple of weeks, but like 6 months to a year, and really give it everything you have, because sales is the only industry truly that is completely freeing. Because once you learn how to make commissions and you're able to drive your own revenue source, your income is unlimited at that point, and then you can take that and go invest and do other things with it. That's the first thing. And don't be afraid to be an entrepreneur. Don't be afraid to, we talk about risk versus reward, right? You are in far more risk when you work for one company as an employee than you are as either a commission-only salesperson or an entrepreneur with a business. Where as an employee, you work for one company. When that company fires you, you're done. Now you're struggling, trying to figure out what to do. When you're an entrepreneur, you work for multiple companies or customers. When one fires you, it doesn't hurt as could be, depending, but it's not as big of a deal. You have multiple customers. You have spread out your risk. It's a mentality of risk versus reward. Having a secure job is less secure than focusing or relying on yourself as security.
And then when you're doing that too, you have so many more friends, so many more relationships that you've built, so many more connections that you have. So it's like if you do lose one, it's like, okay, I know other people. Like, I could figure some stuff out. I know how to provide value. As opposed to just having the mindset of like, oh, I have a job, and when you lose it, it's like, I have no more income. What am I going to do?
How many people have like, dude, I just lost my job. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to go walk down the street and make thousands of dollars right now because I know how to fucking knock doors, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm never and that's what you want to be, in that position where you're not worried about where money's coming from, and you have to know how to go and achieve it.
Hell yeah. Where can the people follow you on Instagram, as well as Alpha Army, if they're looking for an opportunity?
Alpha.army on Instagram, alpha.sales on Instagram. You could find me at dan.zrihen, Zrihen on Instagram. We're all over there. We're continuing to push and build our social media brand. We brand as Alpha Army. That's the movement that we're pushing. We believe that there's an alpha inside all of us, and that doesn't mean the loudest guy. It means the guy that's going to take care of everybody and lead the pack.
That's right.
So that's what we're about, and We love to bring new people on the team and help you guys, and whoever's watching this, like, if you're looking for a home, you're looking for a pack, right? The Wolves Den is a great place to be because, we attack this thing, and we're there to make sure that we're a pack. You're not a lone wolf, right? There's a lot of lone wolves that it's hard, right? But when you have a pack together and you guys are trying to accomplish one goal, it makes it a lot easier to achieve those things.
All comes down to his effort at the end of the day, guys. Be that guy who changes, guy or gal, that changes the trajectory of your bloodline, in a sense, both financially, spiritually. You can do it, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in today, Dan. This was episode 673 of the podcast. Remember to head on over to tickpick.com to use that promo code, capital OSHOW20, for $20 off your next order. Thanks, man.